the Counseling Center here. We will be co-presenting. Am I recording? Yes, I'm recording. And today we'll be talking about virtual interviewing. We still have a couple of students joining us. We might have more. I know there were a group of students who were interested in this session. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Okay. Please let me know. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions, or if you have a hard time seeing my screen, let me know. Okay. So as you know, Career Day is right around the corner. It's next Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we have another day in October. And for those of you who still need help, who needs help with their resumes, we do have rapid resume reviews tomorrow, noon to 3. You can come join us and we can help you with your resume. I will also have Wired on Monday. It's a different event called Wired. Before the Career Day, the companies that are attending the Career Day, some of them, actually 16 of them, are also attending the Wired. It's a professional development opportunity for you all to receive feedback from 16 companies, also to be engaged in career conversations and to practice your 30-second speech. It works like an interview system. It's not really an actual interview, but the way we set it up in Diggernet sounds like an interview. It's not. You can go ahead and select a slot that you're available, and you can talk to 1 or 2 companies. We still have some availability, so if you haven't checked that yet, please go ahead and do it. Again, it's a wonderful opportunity before the Career Day with these companies. Okay, so today we'll be covering Lauren, can you see my switch?
It's still on the first slide.
Okay.
It looks like what you're sharing is the actual PowerPoint, Diogo, instead of the presentation mode. I know it's kind of weird.
Again. So now.
There you go. Yep, you're good.
Is it good now? Okay.
I can just see the notes, so maybe make the slide bigger. There you go. Maybe even more so because it's still smaller.
Okay. It's weird. I am seeing 3 different things on 3 different screens right now. Okay, we'll make this work. So we'll talk about preparation for interviews, interview questions and tricks, and also techniques to manage stress and anxiety during the Career Day. So Career Center is helping you with all of these steps with the proactive job search process. And today we'll be focusing on how to prepare yourself for the interview, and with today's reality, it will be virtual interviewing, what to do during the event, and we'll also cover what to do after the event as well. So we'll be covering 3 types of virtual interviews: phone interviews, video interviews, and groups versus one-on-one. And there will be some things that you can use when we go back to normal, right? This is our normal now. But when we go back to the old days, there will be things that you will still apply to an in-person interview, and that certain things might be different, but we'll be happy to talk about your needs when things change. So one thing we keep from employers is, we keep hearing from employers is researching the company is crucial. So please make sure that you are making a research about the company from their website, right? As you can see on the right-hand side, from LinkedIn, from Glassdoor. LinkedIn is, I mean, nowadays all of these companies out there are using LinkedIn for professional presence on social media. So there is valuable information there. You can also see if you're connected with people working in these companies, if you do your research in LinkedIn as well. So maybe you have a friend working there and you can reach out and have a conversation with them. Glassdoor is a wonderful resource for you to get insider information. So what do I mean by that? Employees working in these companies are leaving comments, or they are sometimes sharing interview questions as well. So especially if the company is big, the tendency, the likelihood that you will get information about this company will be high. So please check Glassdoor before making an interview with a company to collect information and to see if there are any interview questions out there. Google is our always, we use Google for everything, but just make sure that the information that you are reaching out is reliable, right? Just cross-check with other resources as well. So well, when I say social media, it's not only LinkedIn, right? The company might have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, etc. Please check if they have that presence as well, because there might be other information there. And YouTube, some companies even inserted some interview questions. I know Google is one of them. Google, if you go to YouTube and look for Google interview questions, you can see some technical interview questions, and people, I mean HR people, and the person from the technical team, an engineer, is actually solving problems there. There might be other companies out there too for you to see if you are if you would like to see more information about technical interviews. So the three bullet points on the left-hand side are kind of your preparation from before the interview, researching the company, and these are your resources on the right-hand side. Consider your fit with the company and position. How? Well, you have the job ad, right? In Diggernet, in LinkedIn, in Indeed. Look at the job description once more. Maybe you have already submitted a cover letter to the company. That's great practice. If not, again, highlight the keywords they are looking for, and then think about your relevant experience, skills, education, what things make you a good fit to the role. Just prepare yourself to have this conversation. I make a suggestion to our students here, like you can write down keywords, highlight the job ad with the keywords, and next to them, you can write down your fit, why, which positions, which projects that you have been involved with makes you a good fit for this role, as if they're looking for a specific software, for instance, for a specific technical skill. And please write down keywords. Don't write the whole thing. Otherwise, you might tend to read, right? If it's in front of you, you might tend to read the whole sentence. But if you write down the keywords, you can sound more natural if you come up with a structure during the interview, but with your keywords in front of you. And the third thing that you can do before the interview is preparing your questions. Please don't do an interview without you asking any questions at the end. It sounds like you don't care. So please make your research. While you are making your research, prepare your questions too. Please ask smart questions. Don't ask questions that you are able to see the answers very easily somewhere. And natural questions are great during the interview. I will cover that. Have a pen and a notepad with you so you can produce some questions while we are talking with people. And then you can save your questions for after the interview and it also shows to the employer that you are listening actively. It's great. You can produce these questions during the interview as well, in addition to your research before. A couple of things to do. So please know exactly how to log on and who to contact if you're having technical issues, right? So we know some of these companies with the Career Day are also doing interviews, right? Maybe you will get information from the companies to do an interview. That's great. When they contact you about that, please also know who would be the best person that you can reach out if you have any technical issues on the day off. So you don't panic, for instance, or you know what to do. So please look for this information in the communication from the company. Please plan to log in 5 to 7 minutes early to make sure your technology is ready, because you never know. Today I logged on 15 minutes ago. I've seen that I'm having a problem still. 15 minutes was not enough for me to figure that out. So that's why I'm doing this weird position while doing my presentation. So it's not the end of your world, but why not doing it better? So please try to log in 5 to 7 minutes early. If it's a phone interview, please make sure you are ready to answer your phone 5 to 7 minutes before the interview. First, they can call you earlier. Then everybody needs some time to adjust in this new in the interview that is coming, right? I mean, it's hard for people to switch modes from talking to friends and directly to interviewing over the phone. So give yourself some time, a couple of minutes, maybe 5 to 7 minutes in the room that you will have this phone interview. Have water or something to drink by. And everything you might need to reference with an arm stitch, like your resume, right? Like the job ad, keywords next to the job ad that you would like to cover during the interview. Any other preparations related, if you're expecting certain questions, like if teamwork is one of the things that they're looking for, if it's in the job ad everywhere, probably they're going to ask for it. Then be prepared to have this conversation. So maybe there you have one example that is showing that you are a great team player. Then write down the keywords, picks to, a couple of keywords that will make you remember what you're going to tell about that will show you that you are a good team player. So the things on the right hand side in the slides is showing you which materials can be good for you to be close to you while you are doing the interview, like note, paper, and pen, basically to maybe produce questions or write down a couple of things that you liked about your conversation so you can cover it in your thank you letter. Very important, because it's great if you can send a thank you letter, ideally within 24 hours after the interview, ideally. Job description matches highlighted, unofficial transcript. Our minds grads love talking about coursework, sometimes professors, etc. Keep it somewhere. So it's something that you can talk more about your coursework, etc. References, letters of recommendations, samples, and career portfolio are nice to have, and you can talk about them. You can refer to them, but you don't have to directly show them to the employers, right? Just let them know that they're available there, and if they want to see more, you will be happy to share. Apparently, a couple of things very obvious, right? Don't chew gum or eat food during the interview. Don't be driving, walking, or be anywhere that might impact your focus. This is like a meeting. Please don't be with friends, family, pets, or in a lost public space. The fact that this interview is taking place via video or over a call is not making it any less important. So please, keep it professional as much as you can. Use your phone. Please do not use your phone for a virtual interview, if possible. If you have a connection problem with your computer, etc., please let us know. We still schedule rooms here. to students. If you need to schedule rooms, we will be happy to help you with that. Or for instance, for the career day, this is for the career day. We'll have help center upstairs in Ballroom DE for students having connection problems with their computers, but it's limited. I'm not saying this is valid for interviews, but you can use the Career Center here by scheduling rooms. Just let us know. Career Center at MindSeeDU is our email address, and we'll be happy to schedule you a room for an interview. And please avoid spaces where Wi-Fi could have issues if possible. I would suggest you make a test first, if it is the first time that you will use that room for making a meeting. Preparing your space. Good lighting is very helpful with neutral background. So let me tell you what I did in my house. So this is my office here. I'm at Minds today, but I work at home some days. And when I do it, I don't really have an office. It's not really ideal for workshops, etc. But what I did is I changed the position of my daughter's table. So I don't have toys in my background. I'm using the white wall as my neutral background. You can do it as well. You can be creative with these solutions as well. I understand that not everybody has an office, right, and where they will live, but you can change the position, etc. if this is needed, if you're not using one of our spaces too. Please check Wi-Fi connection, headphones, and technology. I don't like my headphones, but they are really ideal for meetings, for me to hear, and I think for my voice to be heard better for the students that I'm meeting. So you might look for these solutions as well. Ensure computer is charged. Please minimize distractions like having an organized desk and keeping pets, friends, and family away during the interview. Before I make a workshop, I make sure that my kids are not around. I ask help so they don't just intervene with the workshops. So try to make these arrangements if you can. Ensure space is quiet and will remain quiet through your interview as well. So during the interview, the company will want to learn you and your skills more, right? Like through introducing yourself. It might be this question here. Tell me about yourself and why this position. Or can you please go over your resume with me? I want to learn more about you. Or it can be in the shape of another question, but still employers will want to know you and why you are interested in this position. So this is actually like the 2 minutes version of your 30-second commercial that you would probably be preparing for your career, for the career day. And let's take a look at let's remember what 30-second commercial looks like on the right-hand side here. So it will capture your major and level. Why did you choose this major? Why are you interested in this company? So this comes from your research, right? Please be prepared to talk about it. So why this position? Why are you interested in this role, and why you? So this is about your fit to this role. Extra highlights if maybe there are certain things about you that make you a unique fit, but they didn't mention that in the job ad, that's fine. You can also add additional things that will help you stand out as well in this question and wrap it up. And I know this sounds long, but please try to prepare your answer in a way that you will give it in 2 minutes. Again, this is the 2 minutes version of your 30-second commercial. It can be a little bit longer than that, a little bit shorter than that, but it's around 2 minutes. And it is the same, pretty much the same, 2 to 3 minutes for each question. If the employer wants you to elaborate, they can ask you. Okay. So on the phone, please allow for small pauses. Why? Well, we lack the virtual cues that we normally have with a video interview or an in-person interview on the phone. So try to do small pauses so you can hear if there's a reaction, if there's an additional question from the employer, etc. That will allow a more smooth conversation between you and the employer. The second bullet point is like a communication rule, but it's even important for the communication over the phone. Try to avoid talking over interviewers. If you need a moment to plan your response, please try to verbalize it. Again, for the same reason, they don't see you. Otherwise, it's going to be a complete silence over the phone. You can verbalize it like, that's an interesting question. Let me think, so they can understand that you have received a question and you are processing it. Please minimize outside distractions so you can focus on the question. And again, take brief notes to help you keep your train of thought. Sometimes these questions might be consisting of 2 parts that might not be super easy to follow when you feel anxious. So making notes will help you focus too. And when it's in a video interview, please try to look into the camera, right? This is definitely different for you right now when I'm looking at the camera. I'm following the slides here, so I have to look this way. But normally, while you are doing a video interview, try to look in the camera, please. And one reminder for you, and I know it's hard because we tend to look at the screen to this other person talking, but maybe you can put a sticky note just by your camera as a reminder to look at that direction. Consider nonverbals and body language, whether they want to continue talking, whether they seem like they're done with that question, etc. If there are cues that you're able to see, that's great. Keep everything close to yourself, so it's easy and convenient for you to look up these materials, etc. Please try to close any pop-up windows, emails, chat boxes. For instance, you might be receiving emails, email notifications. You might be following chats in Teams or similar platforms. Your phone might not be turned off, etc. These are all distractions, and just to be respectful as well, try to log out or close these apps as much as you can and silence your phone. Next, Lauren will give you a couple of tips from her perspective, that things to do before the interview.
Yes, thank you, Duygu. Okay, so some of these things might be obvious to us, right? But again, like in the moment when we're feeling pressure or worried, it's hard to actually do these things well. So as you're getting ready for the interview, you're getting all those logistics set up, shutting down the things like Duygu mentioned. There's other behavioral and some mental health, psychological things we can do to help us feel more confident and more focused. And so that the first point here is that confident body posture, right? Like how you feel actually can be emulated by others. So like if you're like slouched and like kind of like this, or even cold and like guarded, right? Or if like you're really rigid and like nervous, like that can even come across even visually. So you want to have this confident body posture. I like to encourage people, both feet on the floor, roll your shoulders up, back, and down. Like let yourself have a neutral but supported posture that helps you feel attentive and confident, because that can also be portrayed. When we practice breathing slowly and speaking clearly, we're more thoughtful with our words. We might not make as many errors or get lost with what we're saying. We're easier to understand. And especially, so many other things with body language and communication is different with this virtual platform. So we want to make sure that what we are able to communicate is clear. So if you're like me, I tend to speak faster when I'm nervous or when I'm being interviewed or when I'm uncomfortable. I speak fast anyways. But for those of us that maybe that's your cadence is a certain way, you can slow it down, and it might feel agonizingly slow to you, but that can actually come across more clear to the person with whom you're speaking or the panel you're speaking with. And one way to do this is to pause in between your points or your sentences before you ask a question. Let yourself take a breath, like even right now, like like doing it like that in an interview might feel weird, sound weird, but like if you can even just get in the habit of breathing in between when someone's talking and before you're answering, it actually can help you have more confidence. You want to smile, you want to be authentic, right? Even if a little bit feels forced. It's okay to be nervous. Usually we're nervous because we care about things. Don't have the smile just plastered to your face in a way that isn't genuine, but as you smile, that will change your tone, that will change how you're feeling, and even the smallest way can make a difference. This next one, 3 positive qualities or positive self-talk. We are really good at having our inner critic talking to us constantly. So even while we're in an interview, preparing for an interview, we might be thinking of things about, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared for this. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? I'm going to mess up. La la la, like all like etc. Like that just inner talk just goes and goes and goes. And so a way to help that not be so loud as you're preparing for the interview or even in the interview, remind yourself of the things that are strengths you have, some positive qualities that really are the essence of who you are. When you catch yourself being like, you got this, it's okay, you can do it, those positive self-talk moments are really powerful. They can be game changers. And they don't have to be huge, epic statements. They can be a simple, short, and sweet mantra that you come back to give yourself a little boost. And then this last one, bringing a reminder object. This can be with you. We talked about how this could be with you like during career day, but also in an interview. You can have it at your desk. You can have it in your pocket. It can be a picture, something to remind you of your strength and the sources of encouragement that you have in your life, family, friends, or something, just even like something to fidget with, maybe even like a rock in your pocket, literally, something that can help you feel grounded and focused on the tasks at hand. I'll pass it back to you, Diogo. And you're muted still.
Okay, thank you. Here you are seeing a list of questions that you might come across during the interview. You will not necessarily see these questions or hear these questions, but these are like common questions that we keep hearing from employers. Tell me about yourself is the one we already covered. With these questions, please try to use the STAR technique, as we call it, or it is the terminology really among HR professionals too. Try to use the STAR technique as much as you can while answering these questions. So if they're willing to learn how you are doing in a team, tell me about the time you worked on a team. They were linked to see your teamwork, whether you have teamwork skills, to what extent you have it, whether it's in line with their expectations or not, right? So try to give them a real situation, like a PIX1, a PIX2, senior design, providing the task as well, like what you were tasked with, what action did you take, and what was the result. And this example will show them that you have been a good team player. The same with all other questions. These are called behavioral-based questions, and the type of interview is called behavioral-based interview. Basically, you will be expecting questions related to strengths that they're looking for. If you are seeing teamwork in the job ads, that's what they're going to ask, right? Potentially. If they are looking for a strand called results driven, then maybe that's what they're gonna look for with their questions, right? Just try to be ready for these questions by using the STAR technique. That might be another preparation that you can do. So a couple of tricky questions here. Tell me about the time you made a mistake. Tell me about the time things did not go well. With these questions, please, employers really want to see what you learned out of this kind of mistake if things did not go well. Please do not blame others, accept your responsibility, and also talk about the learning. How would you do it differently if you are given the same opportunity today? Or maybe you had the opportunity to make it better. Then what did you work on? What was the progress? Where does any, was there any progress? And would you even do more? Or would you even change things more if you are given the same opportunity? So you can talk hypothetical, talking about how you would approach it differently if you are given the same opportunity. Strengths versus weakness is a very typical question, a wonderful place to use the STAR technique as well. Again, be prepared to talk about your strengths and weaknesses. With the weakness one, again, it's not very desirable. We really don't like, I mean, who likes talking about weakness? But nobody's perfect, right, Lauren? I mean, we have weaknesses. Just have a comfortable conversation about that, and when that happens, so like you can also talk about how you are dealing with that, whether it's impacting your work or not, and whether you started working on it and whether any progress about that. Lauren, do you want to chime in?
No, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. Like, we are all humans. We are not robots, and so it's okay to have a weakness, and it's actually, I think, a strength to know it, and to then to be able to speak to how you're working on it, how you've learned from it. You can choose a lesser weakness if you want, but it's actually okay to speak to this, because I think that actually shows your level of self-awareness and how you're aware of that and working with it, which is a great asset to have as a team member.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay, here. So you might also come across with tough questions, right? I'm sure there's a couple of things. Lauren can chime in here, because it's easy for me to say don't panic here. Maybe she can have some solid suggestions here.
Well, first of all, whenever someone tells me not to panic, I probably then will really. So just know, I mean, if you get ruffled a little bit or you get caught off guard, like that is normal. Like, that is understandable. Tough questions are just that. They are tough. And you're interviewing for something you probably really care about, right? So like, what we want to do is, if you find yourself feeling a little bit off balance of like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how I handled that, again, take a breath. This grounding technique is very simple. Like, literally, like even right now, as you're listening to this, like push your feet into the floor, like feel your body at all the points where it touches the chair you're sitting on, like whatever maybe is in your hands right now, like the mouse or something, like just be aware of that. Like, what we want to do is, when we feel panicky or stressed, is we want to help calm ourselves back down ever so slightly, slowing down our nervous system slightly, so we're not only in that fight or flight mode. Even in an interview, like that can be triggered. So we want to be helping ourselves breathe, being focused on the moment. And a grounding technique, I mean, literally the examples I just gave were some basic ones where we're using some of our senses, and that helps us not only go into that fight or flight mode of our thinking, but it is. And if you panic, recover as best as you can. Take a drink of water, take a deep breath, ask them to repeat the question. Dugu has more tips here to help you through it, but it is like, it's okay if it happens. And more so, instead of just trying so hard to prevent it, or what do I do if I panic, focus on the recovery and how you work through a tough moment.
Thank you. And another piece about questions is, please prepare your own questions too, as we cover it in the preparation piece, looking at the company website, LinkedIn, etc. Again, natural questions are great that you make notes during the interview as well. And here is a couple of questions for you, if you want to take a look. And there's more in the MINDS strategy. MINDS strategy is the resource that we use it's basically our guide for pretty much everything. You can find it in MINDS Career Center, students and resources. So normally we don't expect the employers to ask you salary questions, but that might happen. I mean, that's more like what we are wishing for, but it does not happen all the time. So sometimes they might ask you what you should be paid, what's your minimum salary expectation, etc. So if in case that happens, just be prepared. First, we'd like our students to deflect this question as much as they can, since if the employer gives you the salary first, the offer first, you have more room for negotiation. But you might be in a position where they're insisting and you need to give them a number. That's why we'd like you to be prepared as well. There is some resources out there salary.com, payscale.com. We have Minds salaries as well available on our website. Please be prepared with the research information, just in case you feel like you need to give that number to them, but please do not initiate this conversation at all. It's like one of the questions that the candidates should not initiate, otherwise you can ask other questions. And what has that other company offered you? Negative comments about the employees at other companies, and tell me more about the projects you worked as an intern, etc. The last one here these questions are important considering ethical considerations. The last bullet point here, tell me about the projects you have worked with in this other company as an intern. Please make sure what you can disclose or not. You are engineers or candidates to be engineers. You might be involved in projects that requires confidentiality, and it might make sense to you to disclose like the skills, just to show skills and what you did with this prior work. Just understand before going to an interview what you can disclose with this prior experience. Maybe you sign the document or not. If you have any questions, just reach out to your supervisors and understand. If you have limitations, maybe you can talk about your skills that you use without getting into details of the project. And the first one here, what has that other company offered you, like the name of the company and the offer itself, etc. Then you're basically disclosing their pay policy, right? What they're giving for a certain position, and would not like you to do it. So we don't recommend it either.
Okay, and these are some of similar tips for, as we discussed before the interview and during. We want to keep in mind how we can be kind to ourselves. Interviewing is hard. This is a stressful thing. Even if you feel like you've gotten better at interviewing, it's still hard to be on the spot. So be kind to yourself. Like, you're doing something difficult and you're going to do it as best as you can. With these tough questions that come up, reframe them in the sense of owning what you don't know, talking about what you do know. It's okay to say, like, I'd love to learn more about that, and that's something I'm learning or I'm growing in. Like that, you don't have to know everything. Part of interviewing for a job doesn't mean you know everything already, right? Like, that is where there's time for training and learning, but that awareness of what you bring to the table is beneficial. You can always come back to what you do know, own the things that you have to bring to the job. And tough questions, they will come, and you can handle them as best as you can. Again, this focus on your breath, this, you might be like, you already said that, Lauren, you already said that, but it's true, because we can easily get dysregulated in any moment where we feel stressed or overwhelmed, and when we're not breathing properly, it makes it actually harder for us to think clearly. So during the interview, keep yourself paced with your breath, right? If you're noticing you're starting to get a little worked up, a little tense, or feeling flustered, or overwhelmed, or getting lost in it, come back to your breath. Like, even just being mindful to take a slower breath, that can help your mind actually focus more on the task at hand. And then throughout it, no matter how you're actually feeling, like, remind yourself that you have beautiful strengths that you're bringing to this opportunity. And your brain may be telling you some other things, right? In those moments, we can remind ourselves, like, thank you, brain, for pointing out ways I can grow or do something better. But you also can give yourself a little bit of credit for showing up and interviewing in an unusual situation with a virtual process in a pandemic. Like, not many people have done this before. So, like, give yourself some credit, recall your personal strengths for even what you're facing right now.
So after the interview, you will be given the opportunity to ask questions. You will ask your questions, and please compare these two cases, like where one, the candidate says, just thanks the recruiter about this opportunity and leaves the meeting room, and the other candidate is saying something like the following: thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, I am, after our conversation today, I feel like this is a great opportunity for me. because of the projects that you have mentioned, and I think I will be a great fit for these projects, and I think I will start creating value for the organization right away. I hope I can hear something new from soon. This is way different than saying, just thanking the recruiter and leaving the office. Of course, you can be as creative as you can, but please, this is why note taking helps too. This conversation, I mean, you can be super comfortable or maybe not. If not, these notes will help you to organize your thoughts at the end of the interview. And please, I mean, if it's an in-person interview, take their business information, business cards. If this is a virtual interview, take their contact information so you can send separate personalized thank you letters. You might say something different to an HR person, and you might say something totally different to an engineer in your thank you letter. Again, this is where note taking helps a lot. And here is a sample thank you letter. It's also from the Minds strategy. You can see it in the Minds strategy, and this is a template that we prepared. There's nothing wrong with using some of these pieces. I mean, you can use your original email, or if you don't feel very comfortable with writing, you can use at least the structure from this email.
Okay, so you get through the interview. What can be helpful is, what are you doing right afterwards, right? Like, have a plan when the interview's done. Do you have to rush off to class? Do you have to hurry back somewhere? Do you need to move spaces? Like, knowing what's going to happen next, and maybe even building in some time of a buffer, like one, to congratulate yourself for doing what you just did, but then doing something also, like in addition to like recalling something that you did well, focusing on, yes, what you could maybe improve upon next time. Let that be a learning for the future, but let yourself really specifically call out, that went well and this was what it was. So people ask, how'd your interview go? Instead of beating yourself up and listing all the things that didn't go as well as you had hoped, lead with, remember what did go okay. You can, of course, acknowledge things and learn from things that maybe didn't go as well as you wanted, but we want to also include the strengths of things that were all right, because that will help reinforce in your brain and for your behavior for the next interview to keep doing those things that worked. If you can, take a break, right? Like, let yourself celebrate, acknowledge what you did, go grab a coffee, do something to treat yourself a little bit, do something you enjoy, take a walk. Like, this is a big feat. And so it's, even if it's 5 seconds or a walk around the block, like literally something to just honor what you did, give a pause before you jump into the next thing, can be really helpful. If you want and need more resources before or after your interview, you're feeling overwhelmed, I mean, job hunting can be anxiety provoking. Many of us already come to the table with a mental health history or having some baseline anxiety or other things going on in our life and situation. And right now, given multiple things, the pandemic, social injustices, I mean, the variety of things happening in the world, our reactivity is a little higher these days, and stress is different. And so we just want to remind you, the Counseling Center is one of many supports on campus that is available to you, even in this virtual environment, whether it's some wellness workshops or it's working with the student club Active Minds at Minds, getting resources at you at Minds, working with peer educators. Like, there's lots of ways to get support. And I think especially right now, whether interviewing is stressful or other things in your life are stressful, we just want to be very intentional with reminding you that you're not alone. And it may be harder to have connection and community right now, but we want to still help you get connected. And here are just a handful of ways to do that. And then the next slide is this is just outlining specifically in my department, the Counseling Center, all of our virtual services. So there's a lot available. I saw something in the chat, so I'll pop over there in just a second so we make sure to address those questions. But just so you know, Monday through Friday, there's a drop-in option every day for Mind students to ask a question, get a quick help suggestion, or learning a way to cope with anxiety or stress or anything. And then there's other support services throughout the week, throughout the month. like anyone, myself included, we all need ways to help us cope. And so these are a handful of options that can be delivered right to your virtual door. So take a peek and be proactive for yourself and be aware of some resources for your friends. And of course, if you have other questions, I'm happy to help answer. You can find quite a bit more about the Wellness Center on our Instagram page, Wellness at Minds. And then I do see a few things in the chat, Jugu, in case we need to follow up with those. But while I'm looking at that, maybe, Jugu, I'll pass it back to you if there's any questions or things we want to help open it up for.
Sure. So I see someone looking for recording, and yes, we have a YouTube channel now, and it will be available soon on our YouTube channel. You can look for Minds Career Center. Sam.
And then another question. Oh, go ahead. Quickly, another question that came in was about, someone that feels like they have some technical skills, but not very confident in them, like still learning and developing those skills, which is a great thing. That's why you're a student, I will say. But how can we communicate skills desired by the company that we don't feel we're strong in, but we want the internships to build them? Would you have feedback on that, Jugu?
Yes, great question. So I understand that you are willing to apply to a job that will give you the opportunity to grow, but the skills are not there yet, right? So we can look at what transferable skills you have. Maybe you don't have the skill that they are looking for right now, but you can have something close that you can demonstrate to the employer, and you might get the opportunity with the internship again, or you might have other unique skill sets that they're not aware of, and that would be a good fit for the role. There is nothing wrong with highlighting these skills in your conversation that makes you unique among others, and we would be happy to help you with your speech as well.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of other students that have that similar question too. Like, it's actually a good thing to want to develop and cultivate our skills. And I think as a student, like, that's what you're learning. So in a way, like, this is a really great time to be transparent with that, but then also, like Jugu said, find those other skills that can translate and be very, very impactful and beneficial for the company.
And sometimes you might see some companies being more competitive, to be honest. And maybe you want to work there. You want to do an internship or a full-time position there. That's wonderful. But please don't feel like there's only one way to your dream direction. Maybe you will do other jobs before, or other internships that will prepare you for your dream job. And we have heard lots of stories that dreams change on the way as well. But if it doesn't change, too, if you feel like for instance, GPA is one other thing, is not as high as they're looking for, and you don't feel great about that, what are you going to do, because this is the job you want? Okay, maybe you will apply to jobs that don't require a GPA, but that will help you develop skills that will make you an ideal candidate in 2 years for that other company. Nobody will look at your GPA in a couple of years once you have full-time work experience in the field. And after a couple of years, they will look at your prior experience and that you are from Minds. They're not going to ask your GPA. So you can be strategic with finding these other internships or jobs that will prepare you to your next move as well. Any other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask your questions too.
I'll drop them in the chat if you prefer that way.
Okay. Sure. So we have a Career Day question. Given the new virtual platform for Career Day, what do you expect to be the biggest issue, challenge, or students? Great question. Well, the biggest, if we have a connection problem, it might be a challenge. It will be beyond our control, right? So Brazen is a platform that is developed only for this purpose. They do virtual events. This is not an event that we make it work for this event. No, it is a virtual event platform. So we are expecting it to work efficiently and with no problems. But connection problem might be a problem. So please make sure that your connection is good on the day off. Like you are in a decent place. You are in a place where you check the connection before the career day so you know how it works. So don't try any place for the career day, I guess is my point. Otherwise, I think this platform will provide some flexibilities to students, like time flexibility. Um, for instance, the system allows you to wait in the line for multiple companies. And there's an algorithm behind that. Once one of these companies is available for you while you are waiting in the line, it pulls you to that conversation. If you are not talking to an employer at that moment. So this is great because, I mean, let's compare this to an in-person event. You cannot wait in multiple lines, right? So this is highly time efficient. Or you will not have to juggle between buildings, right? If you're wearing high heels just for this event, for instance, you don't have to do it. It's more comfortable wherever you are doing it. And some of these students report that they feel more comfortable on virtual settings as well. So I hope it is the case for you. Amanda, I'm seeing your question. Are we allowed to be in more than one booth at a time? Or it is enter one wait interview, go to next booth? Cool. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, I think I answered your question, Amanda. Okay. Main challenges being able to do an interview in another language. So is it like English not being your native language?
I think
Or
so.
okay. So I think this is a great question. I think to me as well. Let me tell you how I prepared myself to this job here. I really practiced a lot looking at the job description, what they're looking for, what they would be asking to me, and they asked a presentation from me as well. So I really prepared the way I have not ever before for other jobs when I was back in Turkey for the other jobs, because practice really helps. And I kept the keywords in front of me just in case I feel tense and I don't remember things. So I can just come up with my natural sentences during the interview. So please practice. I would be happy to help you after the career day. We don't have time right now, but we can do a practice interview with you. It helps, really helps. You can do it once with us and then multiple times for yourself. Write down the keywords, etc. You'll see that it's going to help. And don't feel like you need to understand everything. That it does not. Language is not the only indication of you doing a good job. First of all, you are an engineer candidate, or you are an engineer already. So this is definitely an advantage for you because you are a technical person. You will not be doing a communications job, for instance, right? So this is definitely an advantage, and employers see it. We have a lot of international students. If you're an international student, on international status, we have a lot of international students being hired by employers too, because they're looking at technical skills. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared for the interview, but their expectation will be different for you.
Absolutely. I had another question, Diogo. What about students that are curious about using their pronouns in the interview setting, or even like how I have my name listed, Lauren Jensen, she, hers? Like, is that something that's recommended to use or to bring up in the interview? How would you go about doing that if students have specific pronouns that they prefer to use?
It might be especially helpful if you are looking for these for companies that are also sensitive with diversity policies and approaches as well. When it comes to pronouns or what you wear during the interview, my suggestion is always like, think about the impression you want to make. At the end of the day, you are making a decision you are going to wake up to that job every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe earlier. So think about that job. Is this the company that you want to work for? I mean, yes, there is like a couple of things that we suggest to our students with the dress, etc. Or again, with your question, going back to your question, the pronouns. If this is the impression you want to make, and if you want them to see it, and then they like them to decide, do it. At the end of the day, you are making a decision too, and this is part of who you are, very important. So I think there's no one answer to this question, Lauren.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. For instance, it means it's important for me. I do it. If I do an interview today, I would do it because that's the type of institution I want to work for. The priorities might be different for a person when they're looking for a job for the first time, and when if they really need to find a job in a very limited time, etc. You know, priorities might be etc. But I think it's too personal.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. And I know another student just commented to everybody, just, it is like the interview is, yes, about you finding, like if you, like if the candidate, I'm sorry, the words, if the person you're interviewing with, if that company likes you for the job, but this is also about you determining if it's a good fit for you. And so absolutely, inclusion and diversity, like these things are very important. And so we want to know, how will we be accepted or viewed or seen? And obviously, like, there's more discussion that can ensue after the interview, but it is a way to put feelers out there of sorts of how things are responded to or handled. But I think that information can be gathered in more than one interview, in more than one conversation.
So true. What if you're pulled for a conversation while in other lines and you come up, so you will not be pulled if you are in a meeting. The system is seeing that. So once you're done with an employer, if you're still in the line for other employers and if they're available, then you are being pulled. If that is important to you, I'd politely mention it. And if the company values that inclusion, then I think that will be a good indicator of a good match for you, in my opinion. Thank you for your input, Amanda. And there are ways that you can figure which companies really value diversity, inclusion, and access, but it's a different conversation. I would be happy to have a conversation about that too. So we have 1 more minute. Any other questions? And now that I've found you, I would like to make an addition here. If you have any Brazen related questions, Brazen video is already on the home page of the Brazen platform. So once you register, you can see the functionalities of the system, how to navigate in the system. It's very easy for our tech-savvy students, but it doesn't hurt to be comfortable before the event. Thank you, Pablo Cesar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And the recording is on the Minds Career Center webpage, is that right?
Yes, it will be on the, no, it's the YouTube channel.
YouTube channel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.